So I would like to thank everyone for heeding the call of not us, but of those we invited to. It's the Lord who has invited you for this evening. Amen? This seminar is a Christian Life Seminar. It is actually an initiation course for you to become a member of Apostle Christ Foundation for Family Life. It is an integrated course intended for everyone who would like to be part of the community. Integrated meaning to say it's not limited to Filipinos. Hindi lang mga Filipino to. Maraming nationalities. Every nationality can be part of this community. So that's why we call it integrated. So what will you expect in this seminar for tonight? So we will be having, just to give you a brief overview of what we're gonna expect for tonight. We're gonna be having 2 talks for tonight. So each talk, that will be, bigyan ng heads up, that will be from 30 to 45 minutes. So it's a 45-minute talk, and it's gonna be 2 talks for tonight. We'll be hearing not just regular talks. And actually, these talks are not coming from their words, but these talks are coming from the word of God. So it's going to be 2 talks. And after these 2 talks, you will be given groupings. You will be put into groups. Okay? In that group, you will be handed over a material where you can have your discussion for what on that particular talks that you have heard. So that's what you're going to be receiving for tonight. Kasi baka pagkatapos ng talks, yun na, alis na tayo. Pero we will be having some activities. So, hindi naman ganun katagalan. So, the discussion will be 30 minutes for all the discussion talks that we will be delved into after those 2 talks. Okay? And this seminar, we were told about the seminar is only for this week, but we'll be having 4 consecutive weeks. So next week will be on the 23rd, and on the 29th of September, and then October 6th. That will be your last dedication. So giving another heads up on what you will be expecting. So in each talk, after the 3rd talk, repentance and faith, you will be having your what we call one-to-one, and that's the time when you will be asked by your discussion starter, facilitator, if you will continue to move on or be part of the community. I think you naman yung nilay, tutuloy ko, boring na. Hindi na natutunan. Pero that's after the 3rd talk, repentance and faith. Okay? Hindi na naman kayo, binibigyan ko na kayo ng heads up para hindi kayo maano namin pa ng natin. So that's going to be what you will be expecting on the whole entire duration of the seminar. Okay? Then after that, you will be having you will be moving on. So meron kayong last talk. You will be having the last talk, and that case will be put into place, and you will be having a bigger group, hopefully. And then that's gonna be the time that you will be part of the community. Okay? So may one-to-one pair, and then another baptism. That's what we call, and the last one we will be having the baptism for Holy Spirit. Okay? So that, just giving a briefing on what we're gonna be expecting on the whole duration of the seminar. Okay? So without further ado, kasi hapon na, we will be calling in Brother Jen again to introduce our speakers. So once again, I would like to welcome everyone for hearing the call of our Lord for this Christian Life.
Thank you very much, Kuya. So I'm not going to prolong any further. Allow me to introduce to you our first speaker. He's a fellow Tomasian like me. We both studied at the oldest Catholic university in the Philippines, which is the University of Santo Tomas. He's married to Sister Mother Magadia, which is also a fellow Tomasian. They were dedicated to the community year 2003. They served as a household servant. They became chapter BFO, and currently they are now serving area BFO. They have three beautiful boys aged 12, 19, and 18. Brothers and sisters, let us welcome Brother Vicente Magadia Jr.
Again, good evening, my brothers and sisters. For tonight's first talk, I will be talking about Jesus the Messiah. It was interesting when I came over, there were like a bunch of guys by the door. You notice that? I thought it was a fraternity. I thought it was like a chance for them to do hazing. I said, I think I'm in the wrong place. But anyway, the first talk for this evening is Jesus the Messiah. I'm going to start with Scripture. In Genesis 1, verse 27, it says here, God created man in his image. In the divine image, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Our God, who is infinitely perfect and blessed in himself, created man in his image so that he can share his blessed life. And for this reason, at any time, in any place, God draws close to man. He wants us to seek Him, to know Him, and to love Him with all our strength. He is also inviting us to become His adopted children, therefore heirs to His blessed life. In Genesis 1, verse 31, God looked at everything He had made, and He found it very good. So what God creates is good and perfect. You know, my friends, the beauty of our universe is that the order and the harmony of the created world is the result of the diversity of beings and the relationships that exist between them. You know, all of us are unique. All creation is unique. All creatures possess a particular goodness and perfection. And there is also the interdependence of creatures. Remember, we are all creatures here. We are created. God is the creator. We are the created. So there is also the interdependence of creatures, like the sun and the moon, the cedar and the little flower, or the eagle and the sparrow. Each are self-sufficient. But at the same time, each is dependent on each other to complete each other for the service of each other. And that reflects the beauty and the wisdom of our Creator. Now also, man is meant to have friendship with God. Because scriptures and traditions never cease to teach and celebrate this fundamental truth. That the world was made for the glory of God. Not to increase His glory because He does not need it. But simply because He loves us. He wants to share His truth, His goodness, and His beauty. And this is the reason why God created humankind. This is the reason why God created the world. Perfect, right? Everything was perfect during that time. Unfortunately, original sin entered the picture. The sin of our original father and mother, Adam and Eve. Now remember this, my friends. We are sinners not because we sin, but we sin because we are sinners. In other words, all of us here, we were all born sinners, simply because of the sin of our original father and mother. Now, during that time in Genesis, generations after generations after generations, man continues to sin and to turn away against God. And of course, the result is what we have now. We have a troubled world. Now just look around us, right? There are wars all over. We have Afghanistan, we have Iraq, we have Syria, we have the Boko Haram insurgency in Africa. This war has resulted in 10,000 deaths per calendar year. 10,000. We also have the Kurdish and Turkish conflict in the Middle East. We have the civil war in Libya and Somalia. We have the never-ending Israeli and Palestinian conflict. We also have the drug wars in South America. And there is also ethnic violence in Sudan and in some parts of the Middle East. We also have poverty all over the world, resulting to famine and starvation. Children without food for days and weeks. According to the World Bank, statistics from the World Bank, 80% of humanity live under $10 per day. Less than $10 per day. According to UNICEF, 25 children die each day, because of poverty. They die quietly in the poorest villages of the world, far removed from our scrutiny and the conscience of the world. Because being poor made their deaths invisible to all of us. We don't know that people are dying all over the world. Now there is also murder, right? Murder in urban cities, in movie theaters, in schools. I think most recently in Jacksonville, murder like after a video conference. Now there's also murder in our own homes. There is murder of the unborn in abortion. And it is even glorified as a right, the right of women to choose. And included here is the harvesting and selling of baby parts to make a business profit. Care of Planned Parenthood. Just in case you don't know that. There is also the murder of the sick and weak in euthanasia, or mercy killing. I don't know if you are aware, but physician-assisted suicide is legal in several states here in the US. And even in Canada, euthanasia is now given as an option for patients who are sick in hospitals. There is also social injustice. You know, when unjust practices are carried out in society. When equals, like all of us, are treated like unequals. Everybody's getting depressed now. We also have global terrorism, right? When individuals or groups advocate violence and destruction against people and countries just to achieve a political or a religious goal. There's also assault on the family. When society tries to redefine marriage, today, marriage is defined as a strong affection, a sexual relationship between two consenting adults, including the idea of same-sex marriage. Now remember, society did not invent the family, but the family is the foundation of society. To quote the late Pope St. John Paul II, he said, as the family goes, then the country goes, then the world goes. Saint Lucia, Sister Lucia, one of the visionaries of Fatima, she said this: the final battle, well, she said this when she was being interviewed. She said that the final battle between God and Satan, okay, will be something like this. The final battle between the Lord and the reign of Satan will be about marriage and the family. Don't be afraid, she added. Because anyone who operates for the sanctity of marriage and the family will always be contended and opposed in every way. Because this is the decisive issue. And then she concluded, however, Our Lady has already crushed its head. She's saying that this is the final battle. And we see all around us all these conflicts and all these attacks against the family and marriage and family. So does this mean that we are at the end times? We don't know. There is also the assault on religion. The First Amendment to the Constitution guarantees every individual the freedom of religion, to worship or not to worship. But religious liberty is under attack in public places, in government offices, in schools, wherein people are not allowed to pray anymore. Right? And what's worse here is that when religious people are pressured to change their ways based on some anti-discrimination laws. Like, I don't know if you heard it in the news, like a baker from Colorado who was sued because he refused to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple simply because it was against his faith and his belief. Religious liberty is not dangerous, but losing the religious liberty is. On a personal level, there is fear, insecurity, loneliness, anxiety, and sometimes this results to suicide. That's why there are many young individuals nowadays who take their life. Suicide is the most in-your-face index of unhappiness there is. And studies tell us that suicide is directly proportional to wealth, which tells us that money cannot buy us true happiness. So, why are we experiencing all these evils in the world? Because up to now, we continue to sin and to turn away against God. Even we Christians, we turn away from God when we forget and we become unappreciative to the Creator of the universe by worshiping other gods. The God of money, power, fame, position, prestige, and even comfort. To quote the late Blessed Cardinal John Newman, he said, "What is the world's religion now? It includes no true fear of God, no fervent zeal for His honor, no deep hatred of sin, no horror at the sight of sinners, no indignation and compassion at the blasphemies of heretics, no jealous adherence to doctrinal truth, and therefore is neither hot nor cold, but lukewarm." So my friends, we have to acknowledge that we are at war. And I'm not talking about the war between war caused by conflicts of territory, economics, or politics. But I'm talking about the war between good and evil. The war between the light of God and the forces of darkness. And it is so wrong of us to think that everything is okay. Especially if we're living within the comforts of our own home with the people we choose to be with. Having our stable jobs, being healthy, having no problems in the world. Because there is an enemy out there who wants to destroy us. And that enemy, our enemy, the true enemy, is the devil, Satan. In Ephesians, it says, "Our battle is not against human forces, but against the principalities and power, the rulers of this world of darkness, the evil spirits of regions above." So we are not just confronted by the wrongs in society and the wrongs in ourselves, but it is much greater than that. Satan is orchestrating all the evils in the world. Because what God consistently and outrightly opposes, the devil, Satan, the true liar, will righteously justify. He will even justify to us that he does not exist. But what's more terrifying is the nightmare of becoming the devil. Because the horrors outside of our soul is less terrible compared to the horrors inside our soul. The horrors inside our soul is called sin. Sin means doing the devil's work. And he uses the world and the flesh as his instruments. So my brothers and sisters, beware of the devil. He knows our weaknesses, and he will use them against us. We see the devil's work, right? Wars, poverty, social injustice, murder, abortion, rape, robbery, and many countless more. The devil's work is also when we do not lift a finger to alleviate the lives of others who are in need. That's called the sin of omission. The devil also destroys relationships. He will pit one culture against another culture, one country against another country, one religion against another religion, Jews against Muslims, Muslims against Christians, and then even within Christians, Protestants against Catholics. He will pit also people of different social status against each other, like the rich against the poor, the upper class against the working class, management against labor. But what is said here is that the devil will also pit members of one family against one another. Husband against wife, wife against husband, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, daughter against mother, brother against brother, sister against sister, brother against sister, and friend against friend. This community, Couples for Christ Foundation for Family and Life, is not exempt from the devil's work and the devil's plan. Just to tell you, just to warn you. There will be infighting, there will be arguments, there will be misunderstandings, there will be jealousy, there will be accusations, and there will be even contempt for one another. And before we know it, we take the easy road out. We quit on one another. And when we do that, we destroy the very relationship we built together as a community. We destroy the very relationship we built together with God. And at the end, we find out that all our arguments, all our misunderstandings are so trivial and petty. So we do not have to look far and hard. All we need to do is to look within ourselves and examine our hearts. Because we too can be doing the devil's work when we sin. Big sin, small sin. A sin is a sin is a sin. We cannot sugarcoat a sin. Right? But you know what? I've been telling you all this bad news. Now I'm going to tell you the good news. Fortunately for us, we have a God who loves us. He will not leave us to our deserved fate because He is neither indifferent nor distant. In fact, He wants to restore our intimacy and our relationship with Him and our fellowship with Him. He wants to have a personal relationship with each one of us every second of our life. He does not want us to live in pain and suffering, but He wants us to live in happiness and peace, a life where God reigns. So because of His love for us, He will help us fight the war against evil, the war against the forces of darkness, and to win that war. And how can He do that? First, He will tell us who our enemy is. The wrongs in society and the wrongs in ourselves, and they're all orchestrated by Satan. And then He will give us weapons. And I'm not talking about AK-47s or tanks or aircraft carriers. I'm talking about weapons like the sacraments, baptism, confession, the Holy Eucharist, confirmation, weapons like the Holy Rosary, the Divine Mercy Chapter, the first Friday and the first Saturday devotion, weapons like prayer, faith, forgiveness, service, understanding, self-denial, self-sacrifice, and love for one another. We need all these weapons to win the war. And most importantly, He will send His only begotten Son to suffer and to die for each one of us. Jesus Christ. Now, who is Jesus Christ? Jesus is a unique figure in history. So unique means He is one of a kind. He was pre-announced and His coming was anticipated. Because of the Old Testament prophecies, the people of that time in the Bible were waiting for the Messiah, right? When God promised the patriarchs, in Him all nations will be blessed. And then when it was said that the tribe of Judah will reign supreme among all the Hebrew tribes until the time when He comes, then all the nations will obey Him. The Bible of the Alexandrian Jews predicted that in John, I solemnly declare it before Abram came to be, I am. And in John 10, the Father and I are one. As proof of His divinity, He forgave sins. In the Gospel of Mark, remember when the paralytic was lowered from the roof by his friends so that Jesus could touch and heal him? And Jesus was amazed at their faith when He said, my son, your sins are forgiven. And of course, the leaders of the church protested. That is blasphemy. No one can forgive sins. And Jesus reinforced it by saying, so that you might know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. So Jesus forgave sins. Another proof of His divinity, He raised Lazarus from the dead. Right? We all know that. Only God can give life. And only God can take away life. He Himself died and was raised from the dead and is alive today. In John 14, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. What Jesus is saying is that He is the only way, He is the only truth, and He is the only life, and there is no other. Now this statement is difficult to swallow for many people, because even we Christians who share this same conviction are often referred to as narrow-minded, bigoted, or even snobby. Because during this age of religious tolerance, Jesus' claim to exclusivity is what we call today as politically incorrect. Because remember, Christianity is not the only religion in the world to proclaim that our way is the only way. Muslims, Mormons, Orthodox Jews, scientific Christians, Jehovah's Witness, Buddhism, all of this claim that their way is the only way. So many people have problems with this one-way belief system. Because to them, all religions are the same. We share the same spiritual path and goal to reach the peak of the mountain, so to speak. That's true. There are similarities between Christianity and the other religions, especially regarding its moral teachings. But there are also grave and irreconcilable differences between Christianity and the world's religion. The first difference, not all religion believe in the universal fatherhood of God. Buddhism does not believe that there is a God. Hinduism believes that everything is God. Christians believe that the Bible is the Word of God. Muslims believe that the Quran is the Word of God. And Mormons believe that the Book of Mormon is the Word of God. A second difference. We Christians affirm the divinity, the death on the cross, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Other religions, like Muslims, do not believe these three scriptural truths. And the third difference, other religions believe that man should reach out to God. But we Christians believe that not only can we reach out to God, but also God reaching out to humankind through Jesus Christ. Now, many people also have problems with this one truth belief system. We are told to be tolerant of other people's perspective of the truth. We are told to be tolerant of people who think and believe differently than us. And that's fine. Because the Bible teaches us to be respectful and to be loving as we share our faith. But it doesn't mean that a belief system that is tolerated or even protected by law is equally true. Because this is impossible. Because truth, by definition, is to be exclusive. If a true statement does not exclude, then the assertion of the truth was not made. Because there is only one truth. When we have tests in school, multiple choice, A, B, C, D, there's only one answer. It's not A and B, it's not C and D. There's only one correct answer. So there's only one truth. We're also told to be tolerant and respect other people's opinion. But opinion do not make it true. Jesus Christ is the truth, whether we like it or not. Now, many people also have problems with this one life belief system. There was a priest and a student, and they were walking through the forest. And they were discussing on how they can improve the lives of the people they serve. And of course, the student, trying to impress his mentor, claimed that Jesus is not the source of all life. There are other sources. And then as he was trying to explain this, the teacher just kept quiet, he remained silent, and was listening intently until they got to a river. When they got to a river, he grabbed the student's head and put it underwater. And he held it there for a few seconds. And of course, the student struggled because he cannot breathe, right? After a few seconds, he let go. And the student gasped for air. Or shall we say, he gasped for his life. Now, when he regained his composure, he asked his teacher, "What was that for?" And the teacher replied, "You need Jesus as much as you need air. We need air to breathe in order for us to have life. Jesus is our air. Jesus is our life. He is the reason why we are here tonight, alive and well and having this Christian seminar. Jesus is our everything, and we are nothing without Him." Again, whether we like it or not. Now, Jesus is also about love. Now, many of us, when we are experiencing pain and suffering, and then when we are one against the world, feel that Jesus forgot about us and He does not love us anymore. And I hear this all the time, movies, the teleseries. We blame God for all the miseries we experience in life, right? We don't blame ourselves, but we blame God for the miseries we encounter in life. Now, before we make this conclusion, let us try to remember the cross. There's the cross. The Christian logo is the cross. And as followers of Christ, we have to carry our own cross, persevere, and embrace our cross. Because the cross reveals the truth. As many theologians will say, the cross proves everything. Why don't we contemplate for a few minutes? Okay? Let us all close our eyes. Everybody, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Imagine you are at the foot of the cross that one Good Friday afternoon in Golgotha. And then you look up and you gaze upon the cross and you see the bloodied and battered body of our Lord Jesus Christ. And then we try to feel what He went through the past several hours. He was scourged, not once, not twice, but several hundred times. And then they put a crown of thorns on His head, and then He was sentenced to die for doing no wrong. Exhausted, He carried a heavy cross on one shoulder to the heavy, to the rocky, and hilly roads of Calvary. And then He was nailed to the same cross like a thief. And worse, He was ridiculed and insulted by the very same people He came to love and save. Now look hard and wept and gaze upon the cross. Okay, let us all open our eyes. Do we still feel that Jesus forgot about us and He does not love us anymore? Because His response to us from the cross is, been there, done that for you. He experienced pain more than we will experience pain in a lifetime. He suffered more than we will suffer in a lifetime. And yes, He was one against the world. Even His closest friends abandoned Him during His trying times. So you see, my friends, when we gaze upon the cross, there is an inner exchange. For all our pain, suffering, aggressiveness, unforgiveness, victimhood are all healed. When we gaze upon the cross, there is an inner exchange wherein we take that image within ourselves and then we offer our souls in safe return. That's why when we gaze upon the cross, we always say, ipinauubayan na po namin lahat ng problema sa inyo. We do not need a theological education to experience that inner exchange. And of course, on the third day, pain and suffering were conquered and defeated. The resurrection is the symbol for us Christians. If our Christian logo is the cross, our symbolism is the resurrection. That's why we are called children of hope. Because we will always hope, even how much our problem is, we will always hope that everything will be all right. Because of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. As the saying goes, the sun will shine again tomorrow. So you see, we have to agree to accept the burden of our pain and suffering. We have to agree to accept the burden of our trials and our challenges. Because it is our ultimate act of solidarity with Jesus on the cross. So when we pray, we just don't pray, thank you for all the blessings and all the graces. Thank you for my job, thank you for my car, thank you for our health. But when we pray, we should also pray, thank you for our pain and suffering. Thank you for our trials and our challenges. Because through them, we know we are one with you. To quote Saint Therese of the Child Jesus, she said this, to turn our back on suffering is to turn our back on love and to renounce our sanctification. And who is love? Jesus is love. So to turn our back on suffering is to turn away or to turn our back on Jesus Christ. During legal proceedings, like in a court setting, a person who is anonymous or unknown is referred to as John Doe, right? And the female counterpart is Jane Doe. In the Philippines, they call it Juan de la Cruz. Okay? But here it's John Doe and Jane Doe. I'm saying this because many of us feel that we are socially unimportant. Maybe because we do not live in a big house. Maybe because we don't drive expensive cars. Maybe because we don't wear signature clothes. Maybe we don't hold high positions at work. Maybe because we don't have enough dollars in our bank accounts. Or simply because we are irrelevant to other people. Maybe it's not a feeling, maybe it's a fact. Because if we die today, I don't think our death will be of national news. Maybe a short obituary in the local newspaper, but not nationwide. So does this mean that we are not important? Does this mean that we are mere John Does and Jane Does to others? Perhaps. But does it really matter? Because in the eyes of God, we are all unique and precious. And that He loves us so much that He sent His only Son, Jesus Christ, to die for each one of us. His love is universal. We are all important. There are no John Does and Jane Does with Him. Jesus Christ died for each one of us. For you and I. Someone with a name, someone with a face, and someone with a story to tell. If I were the only sinner in the universe, I still believe that Jesus will come and save me and die for me. If Brother Bong is the only sinner in the universe, I also believe that Jesus will come and save him and die for him. If all of us here were the only sinners in the universe, I also believe that Jesus will come and save us and die for us. And that makes all of us worthy. So, my brothers and sisters, to close, I just want to close with one statement. And I want you to remember this. God's divine affirmation is what defines us, and not the superficial assessment of the world. So my brothers and sisters, smile, be happy, because Jesus, our Messiah, loves all of us. Amen. Amen.
saka media. Let your mind be occupied with the things of God. How you can please God. Fill your mind with the thoughts about God and read Christian books and other helpful Christian literature that can help form our mind. What it means to love God with all our strength. Because sometimes we can say, this is my life. But when we are already in pain, we ask God, Lord, please help me, heal me. But if we are strong, this is my life. I am the author of this life. But that's not true, brothers and sisters, because only a second God can take each and every one of us. We are God's creation. He owns what it called ours. And I'm begging you to please help your church, brothers and sisters, do tithing. Hindi yung very tight, kaya hindi na nagbibigay ng tithe. Tithing is good, brothers and sisters, and tithing is 10% of our resources. It is not ours, we are just stewards. Sino sa inyo pinanganak dito na naka-boots at saka naka-leather jackets? Wala, di ba? Lahat tayo naked. At saka babalik tayo naked, abo pa.
Dapat ito na lang sa
And when we joined the community in 1997, and we are already 21 years in the community. At saka hindi pa rin nabago. 21 years, brothers and sisters, we joined this community. And we are still improving daily. Because Christianity is changing. We keep on changing, transforming to the new creation that God has to be. By the way, you know the reason why we say peace in the church during the Mass? Peace be with you. You know what the meaning of it? Hindi. If we know the meaning of it, brothers and sisters, what we are saying, peace be with you. May you be the person what God wants you to be. That's the meaning of peace that we are asking or telling everyone, brothers and sisters. And we graduated our CLS and our Lady Mercy in 1997, like I said, and 21 years. And after our graduation, we right away been told to serve as Eucharistic. Now they call it extraordinary minister of the Eucharist. We started and then we were called to serve as a pastoral council, stewardship council, at saka kung ano pang council. We did everything in order for us to serve the people of God. Because that's where we are called for, brothers and sisters. And what this means to love God with all our soul. We love God, the whole being, ang buong pagkatao. Walang pag-iimbot. Lahat. Totoo. And we must be a total person. We have also to remember that we are God's creation, all to be held holy, intended by Him to spend eternity together. And you know what? When we are in heaven, brothers and sisters, we use one size of robe, white robe. One size fits all. Wala nang ibang size. One size lang. Wala yung small, wala yung medium, wala yung one size fits all. Loving our neighbor. In 1 John chapter 4 verse 20 to 21. If anyone says, I love God, but hates his brother, he is a liar. Klaro, di ba? If anyone says, I love God, but hates his brother, he is a liar. For whoever does not love a brother whom he can see, how much more God whom he cannot see. This is the commandment that I have. Whoever loves God must also love his brother. It is very clear, brothers and sisters. Christian love is not only having positive feeling. Christian love is not always saying yes. There are times in our life that we cannot say always yes. And that's okay. And even if we have time, but still we can, because something is coming up, then we can serve others. And Christian love is not self-seeking. The focus of Christian love is not ourselves but others. It is about others. So, then what is Christian love? Jesus spoke of love that is connected with keeping God's commandments. John chapter 15 verse 9 to 10. As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. Again, we speak about obeying God. There can be no Christian love apart from righteousness. When we disobey God's commandments, Christian love is not compatible with sinning and sinful lifestyle. The world's experience shows that love apart from God has become convoluted with sin. Example, sex outside marriage. Jesus was specific about how we are to love one another. In John chapter 15 verse 12-13, this is my commandment, love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down his life for a friend. And this is the sacrificial love, the selfless love, which is called agape. And there are different types of love. Sacrificial love, agape. Brotherly love, philia. That's why it's called Philadelphia, brotherly love. And there's eros, the erotic love. And there's storge, the familiar love. And the obsessive love, which is the mania. That's why there are the mania. That's from the word. But most of us are called to not to actually die for others. How then do we translate love into practical everyday terms? The answer is John chapter 13 verse 14-15. This is the foot washing episode. Di ba sabi ni God, Peter, I have to wash your feet. Sabi naman ni Peter, no Lord, hindi. Pero sabi ng God, pag hindi kita hinugasan, wala kang party sa aking kaharian. Kaya sabi ni Peter, hindi lang feet ko Lord, pati nakapubali ko. But if you take but every day we don't need to be. And remember why Peter drowned nalubog, di ba? When there was a storm, and then they thought there is a ghost. Sabi ni Lord, don't worry, Peter. This is I. Sabi naman ni Peter, Lord, then you call me and go to that water with you. Oh, come. Lumabas si Peter sa boat, tapos lumapit siya kay Kristo. Pero, ang nangyari, lumakas yung hangin. Natakot siya, kaya simula siya lumulog. Anong sabi ni Kristo? You little pig. Kasi maliit yung pig niya.
Sorry, brothers.
Yung pinakamababang o yung pinakabata ang naghuhugas ng paa ng mga guests. Kasi pagpasok nila, malikabok. It's dirty because they only wear sandals and they walk miles. And that's the reason why washing of the feet is being given an importance. In John chapter 13, verse 34, love one another as I have loved you, so you also should love one another. So, who is our neighbor, brothers and sisters? Who is our neighbor? Tingnan yung katabi ninyo. Our neighbors is those that need our love, need our care, need our resources. That's our neighbor. And sabi ni brother, tapos laro tayo. Paya kayo. 5 minutes, bro. The characteristic of a Christian, brothers and sisters, in 1 Corinthians chapter 4:7. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not jealous. Love is not pompous. It is not inflated. It is not rude. It does not seek its own interest. It is not quick-tempered. It does not brood over injury. It does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endure all things. And I will read it and change and substitute I for love. And could you repeat after me? I am patient. I am kind. I am not jealous. I am not pompous nor inflated. I am not rude. I do not seek my own interests. I am not quick-tempered. I do not brood over injury, nor rejoice over wrongdoing, but I rejoice with the truth. I bear all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things. And may the Lord be with you, and God bless you all. And accept and receive a miracle today. And by the next week, tell me what's that miracle, because I believe the miracle prophet is His word. I always start with a beautiful phrase of verse. If today you hear His voice, harden not your hearts. Because if we only listen, we will listen to the word of God, and God will talk to us. And I have a feeling that some of you here, members of your family who are sick, and don't worry, because God is telling you that it's okay. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28 to 30, we know all things that work for God who are called according to His purpose. Every one of us, brothers and sisters, we are called. The reason why you are here, because you're not at home. Right? No, the reason why you're here, because you are called. God wants you to hear His words and to transform you to the new creation that He wants you to be. The person that God wants you to be. And for those who for you, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, so that He might be the firstborn among His brothers. For those He predestined, He also called. For those He called, He also justified. Those He justified, He also glorified. And you are saints now, brothers and sisters. In the first session, brothers and sisters, we learned that the world has turned away from God, but God has always beautiful plan for each and every one of us. And Jesus is the present person, and His coming was pre-announced. Saan? Okay lang Tagalog?
Bisaya
Saan
man,
pinanganak
Bisaya.
si Kristo? Saan pinanganak si Kristo? Bethlehem. And you know what Bethlehem stands for? Meaning of Bethlehem in Hebrew. It is house of bread. House of bread. Kung sa panahon natin ngayon, red ribbon, Goldilocks, house of bread. And in Arabic, it is Bet Olam, means house of flesh. Kaya pang ulam. Bet Olam. Why I'm telling you this one, brothers and sisters? Because tomorrow is Sunday. And God has said to us that He is the bread of life that comes down from heaven. It is not the bread that Moses gave, but it is the bread that comes down from heaven, which is He. And for this, brothers, also, our response as God has done everything to enable us to experience salvation. And we also need to respond to live out the good news that is Jesus present in our lives, and we need to be an authentic Christian. Authentic Christian. And you know, the word Christian, brothers and sisters, right? If we take out Christ in Christian, it will be I-E-N. And what stands for? I am nothing. Christian without Christ is I am nothing. Then, what is authentic Christianity, brothers and sisters? It is meeting Christ, living Christ, and sharing Christ. And to meet Christ and to know Christ, brothers and sisters, is a personal relationship that we have to have with Him. And this is what I'm saying, the Eucharist. Because in the Eucharist, we meet Christ in during the sacrifice of the Mass 4 times. First, congregation. In the congregation where 2 or 3 shall be gathered in my name, I will be in their midst. Second, God is present in the priest, alter Christos, another Christ. And if the priest say, the Lord be with you, and what's your response? And with your spirit. And there was a priest who was just newly ordained, and he gives lengthy homily and loud voice. One time when he's giving his homily, the microphone didn't work, and he said, something is wrong with the microphone. And the congregation answered, and with your spirit. And the third one, brothers and sisters, Christ is present in the Word, liturgy of the Word. And the fourth one, God is present in the Eucharist. Body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ is given to us to transform us to the new creation that He wants us to be. Meaning, if we receive Christ, brothers and sisters, we have to be changed. We have to be transformed. Because Christ is transfusing His life to us. And also, the transubstantiation, changing from the ordinary bread and ordinary wine, it becomes body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. And the third one is the thanksgiving. You know the meaning of Eucharistia? Eucharistia stands for thanksgiving. In Greek, Eucharistia. Thanksgiving. Why I'm telling you this, brothers and sisters? Because tomorrow, once you receive Christ, always remember that it is just an ordinary bread, but it means transformed to body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. And what is to live Christ? And what is our response to it? Our response is holiness and discipleship. We are called to be holy, for God is holy. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 15, 16. But as He who called you is holy, be holy yourselves to every aspect of your conduct. For it is written, be holy, for I am holy. And we are also called to Christian perfection. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 48, so be perfect, just as your Father is perfect. In Romans chapter 12, verse 1 to 2, Saint Paul said, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to the mercies of God, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing, acceptable to the Lord. Do not conform to this age, but be transformed with the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, pleasing, and perfect. We are also called to be true disciples in Luke chapter 9, verse 23. If anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. Self-denial, brothers and sisters, is hard, especially this time that we have so many commercialism, globalism, consumerism, and immoralism, liberalism, and a lot of listen. But Jesus is asking us today to carry our burdens, to face the difficulties, and bear the pain of suffering. That's the embracing of the cross, brothers and sisters. And following Jesus is to leave everything behind that are not important. Because if we have so much luggage, we cannot enter the heaven, the kingdom of God. What happened when Jesus called Matthew? When Jesus called Matthew, Matthew rise up right away and followed Jesus. But one thing I'm for sure, that he didn't just rise up without bringing anything. He brought a pen. Why? Because he wrote the Gospel of Matthew. And to share Christ, brothers and sisters, to participate in witnessing to Jesus and witnessing to other people. Proclaiming the Gospel in the normal day-to-day circumstances of our lives in order to be effective witness. We are to be effective witnesses and live Christ in a life that God wants us to be. We can give what we don't have, brothers and sisters. We may be an eloquent speaker, but it's no use if His Christ is not present. Furthermore, we are to love God and neighbor. Mark chapter 12, verse 28 to 31. One of the scribes, when he came forward and heard him disputing, and saw how well he had answered them, asked him, which is the first of all the commandments? Jesus replied, the first is this, hear, O Israel, Shema Israel. The Lord of God is Lord alone. In Hebrew, they call it Shema. Shema means hear, listen. Ephata, open. Jesus responded, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other greater commandment than this. What it means to love God with our heart. Sometimes our heart is full of pain. That's why heart, you spell it H-E-A-R-T, right? Sometimes it has hatred, envy, resentment. Envy, anger, resentment, and one is tamadity. Means timid, tamadity. And the heart is totally committed to Him. We have to love God and to be committed to Him. It is a decision to put God first in our life, to be loyal to Him, to place Him with all others above our own. How do we put the Lord first in our life? It requires a decision to obey Him. In John chapter 14, verse 15, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. We can only do that to maintain personal relationship with Him. And we need to spend regular time in prayer. I want you to pray as much as possible. In my daily prayer, I pray 4 times. I pray in the church, I pray 12, I pray 3, I pray 6. And if you pray and put everything, God, in your heart, then you will realize, brothers and sisters, that nothing is important rather than praying to God. What it means to love God with all our mind. To love God with our mind means to serve Him with the use of our mind, or simply make available our minds for His purposes. It can be used in the world progress, such as science, technology, and medicine, and others. Or it can be an instrument of destruction, such as atomic bomb, nuclear bomb, biological warfare. And how do we love and serve God with our mind? Keep our mind clean. And always, if you have time, always read the Bible. Read the Bible daily. And you will realize that reading the Bible, you can read. If you start 5-10 minutes, it will go on. Because the Bible is our story. And if you put yourself in that story, then you will realize that you are part of that Bible. And simply minimize television, minimize fake news, minimize media. Why is called media, brothers and sisters? Because it's half truth. Kalahati lang, kaya lang media. Likewise, be vigilant.
Buti na, walang taga-media dito.
So they call airwaves. Airwaves. Because in that airwave, brothers, there are three. You know, there are three heavens. First, second, third. This is the third heaven where St. Paul was the third heaven. And the first heaven is the airwaves. This is where Satan is living.